Hi. Welcome to Camp's accounting firm. Put your money in my hands. I'm a professional. Trust me with your finances. I know I seem like a total dumbass on the surface, but what if I told you I actually have a bachelor's degree in accounting? I'd be lying. I took accounting as an elective in high school once and failed every test except the one I took while stoned. Also, that's a photo from Google. Sorry to that guy. I don't know why I suck so bad at it. Accounting is just math that actively makes life harder. But nonetheless, I had an idea pop into my head recently. And that was about Barenaked Ladies. The band, not the gender. I'm irritatingly homosexual. 1992 saw the formal release of their hit single, If I Had $1 Million. A cute little song talking about everything the singer would buy if he accrued this much wealth like a class trader. It won the hearts of a lot of people in the mid-90s, containing a lot of lofty ambitions that someone with $1 million during that time could attain. However, it's been over 30 years since this song came out. With the rate of inflation and things getting more expensive nowadays, I thought it could be worth a revisit to see if, in the year of our Lord 2026, could you actually still buy everything they mention with just $1 million? So as we're doing today, real quick, both myself and the band are Canadian, so I'll be using Canadian currency for this video. There's some items that I only found priced in USD, so for those, I just converted them to C80. If you really want the price in freedom units, the conversion rate is about $100 Canadian per 5 cents American. Also, for things that require recurring payments, I'll calculate the amount needed for a year of it and have a separate tally that will just be for recurring payments, but I'll still have the grand total of the $1 million thing. Cool? Cool. Cool.
If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a house.
We're already off to a pretty bad start. The Barenaked Ladies are from Scarborough, a municipality in the Greater Toronto Area, so I decided to look for houses there. Searching on realtor.ca gives us 733 listings for houses, the cheapest of which is $500,000. Holy fuck. Originally, I was going to get the average house price based on the listings, but doing so put the total price of the house to over $1.2 million. I'm gonna be honest, if we go past $1 million on the first lyric, it'll be a boring as shit video. So instead, I'm just gonna pick the cheapest house that I actually like the appearance of. Okay, so the $500,000 one doesn't look terrible. Personally, I enjoy looking out my windows and not seeing the inside of someone else's house, but you do you. Cool attic bedroom, love the Euclidean geometry defying mirror, hope that comes with the place. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this one. Moving on. This feels like one of those portable houses that you can buy on Amazon for like $8,000, except this one has less structural integrity. Still getting a face full of brick looking out of either side, but at least there's some more green in this one. I'm a fan of the subversion of expectations here, where you expect the rest of the photos to be the inside of the house, but instead they keep moving the camera farther and farther away. Really interesting way to advertise, I gotta say. Since I can't even see the interior, I'm just vetoing this one. Okay, now we're talking. Love the brick exterior, big windows on the front. Interior is kind of gaudy. Not a big fan of almost every floor surface being carpet. There's a couple more pricey options that look less like my grandma threw up on everything, but for me personally, with a little love, we can make this place work. And it's all for the low price of just $628,000. Fuck me sideways, Jesus. We have a house, but the $628,000 when account for things like property tax, utilities, maintenance. That'd be too easy. The real estate market doesn't hate you enough. From my very rudimentary research, the amount of property tax you'd be paying is roughly 0.6% of the house value per year. So if we're buying the house for $628,000, you can deduce annual property tax would be about $3,768. The average utility cost for a home in Toronto is about $300 a month. For maintenance, there's a lot of different strategies when it comes to saving for home repairs and shit. A common one I see is the 1% rule, which is literally just 1% of the house's value you put aside per year. However, since you probably want to make it look less like a retirement home, let's say 2% to just account for refurbishing. All three of those gets us $20,000 a year, which is money.
If I had $1 million.
Alright, now that we've blown 2/3 of the budget simply on finding a place to live, let's do the rest of the shit.
Buy you furniture for your house, maybe a nice Chesterfield or an ottoman.
Considering this says either or, I decided to flip a coin where heads was Ottoman and tails was Chesterfield. It landed on Chesterfield. Googling Scarborough furniture, the first result is Salacy furniture. I opened the website, typed in Chesterfield, and they don't have any. So I went to myfurniture.ca, which was the website below, and they also don't have anything with Chesterfield in the name. Did they go extinct the last 3 decades? What the fuck am I looking at? Then I learned that I'm not insane yet. Chesterfield is literally just an outdated Canadian term for a fancy couch. Nice little curved curveball to keep me on my toes. I appreciate it. So I went back to the first furniture store, picked a nice looking couch, and add that to the running total. Notably, I wrote down the retail price and not the discount price because in order to get that, I needed to add the store on WhatsApp apparently, which I'm not fucking doing. $2,069 nice dollars for the couch, adding 13% for Ontario sales tax. That gives us...
If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a K car, a nice reliant automobile.
A K car is a type of vehicle created by Chrysler, which used a more economic engine in response to the 1973 oil crisis, as well as making it more lightweight. That's about all I gleaned from the Wikipedia page before my brain started to leak out of my ears. They were pretty revolutionary in the 80s and 90s when the song released, specifically the next line saying a nice reliant automobile. Reliant is actually a model in the K car lineup. I don't know if that was intended, but I'm acting like it is. After some digging, I found a listing for a 1988 Reliant K car in Pennsylvania that's listed at $4,000 USD. Converting to Canadian, that's $5,534.20. Numbers. For things like insurance and gas, that shit varies so wildly I'm not even going to bother working it out. Instead, this website says that the insurance for people in Ontario is generally just under $2,000 a year, and this news article says the average person spends $231 on gas a month, so that gives us...
And if I had $1 million, I'd buy your love.
This escort I found charges $4,500 for a date night. I don't know if that includes tax, but if you make more than $30,000 or more a year in Canada, then you have to report it to the Canadian Revenue Agency, so I'd assume they'd charge harmonized sales tax. One date night normally isn't enough to buy someone's love though. You gotta be a reoccurring client that treats her right. So let's say that you wine and dine her every 2 weeks. Times that by 26, add the sales tax, we get...
If I had $1 million, I'd build a tree fort in our yard.
This line is interesting because the singer is saying he'd do it himself with the help of his love interest, whom I'm assuming is a woman because it was 1992 and Canada wasn't all the way chill with the gays yet. In that case, we only really care about the raw materials. So I began looking up instructional guides and came across one hosted by my beloved Home Depot that talks so much about picking a good strong tree with branches that can support the structure, only for the family in the photos to just build the whole thing around the tree. I'm far too stupid to work out the cost of everything in the tutorial though, so I went to YouTube and found someone making a Fortnite themed treehouse. Unfortunately, the build is really small, like I don't think you could even fit 2 people in there recreationally. Also, there needs to be room for a couple other appliances. Foreshadowing is a literary device, and this creator spent about $12,000 at Home Depot for supplies, not counting wood he also had from a previous project. If you want something, say, double the length and the width, then we would need 4 times the material, I'm assuming probably. Is that too much? Is my math wrong? My math is probably wrong. I mean, fucking, what do I look like? An accountant? Wait.
It wouldn't be that hard if I had $1 million. Maybe we could put a little tiny fridge in there somewhere.
Mini fridges themselves are pretty inexpensive, between like $150 to $200. So let's say middle of the road, they get one for $1.75 after sales tax. That's $197.75. The song also talks about the fridge coming stocked with all kinds of hors d'oeuvres and shit, notably complaining that pre-wrapped bacon doesn't exist. Luckily, in 2026, it does exist because we're living in the worst timeline. The fact that this exists is proof that we are a species not worth saving. Let's say they get a bunch of cheese and meat and other finger foods to shove in there. Let's say it's $100 worth of stuff. I don't know how frequently they'd go up into the tree, so let's say they only restock it like once a month. So that runs the total to...
If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a fur coat, but not a real fur coat, that's cruel.
Glad you threw that caveat in there. I imagine fake fur is cheaper anyway. I found a random decent luxury coat with faux fur, $713 plus sales tax, and that's...
If I had $1 million,
I feel like a lot of these are just like normal, you know? Like I figured there'd be some weirder shit in here. I'm not sure why they're playing it so safe.
well, I'd buy you an exotic pet, yep, like a llama or an emu.
Okay, there we go. As opposed to flipping a coin this time, I'm choosing to say they get an emu in this scenario. You want exotic? These motherfuckers are born and bred in Australia, other side of the world type shit. Upon checking this article that encouraged me quite aggressively not to get one, it turns out emu chicks are actually pretty cheap to buy. It's just $200 in North America. Canada, sales tax, you know the deal. Growing emu chicks apparently eat about 2 pounds worth of feed a day, so if you order the equivalent of that from this website, 40-pound bags for $28, you would need 18 and a quarter orders for 730 pounds of food, so $511 Canadian sales tax. That brings us up to...
If I had $1 million,
Okay, well, an emu is certainly an odd choice of pet, but I mean, you know, you got any other wild requests you want to throw in?
I'd buy you John Merrick's remains. Ooh, all them crazy elephant bones.
You want a dead body? I mean, I'm just your accountant. I'm not here to judge. For those unaware, John Merrick was your average-looking British person. He was alive in the mid to late 1800s and was part of a freak show where he was dubbed the Elephant Man. I was gonna make a joke about how we should bring back freak shows in the modern day, but then I remembered that this website exists. He had some weird stuff going on in his body, which I'd love to dive into, but the only school subject I was worse at than accounting was biology, so apologies. All that matters here is that he was a medical marvel whose bones are currently being held at Queen Mary University. His skeleton never had a price ascribed to it by them. However, we're in late stage capitalism, motherfucker. Everything has a price. In 1987, Michael Jackson tried to buy them for $500,000, and when they refused, he tried again for a full $1,000,000. If we take that as the value and assume that the bones are worth $1 million, adjusted for inflation, we're looking at almost $3 million, which is too much. But also, it doesn't really matter because they've said multiple times that they aren't for sale. And it makes sense. Like I said, he was a medical marvel with an apparent illness that's still being studied to this day. So that's why, if you want to get a hold of them, you have to get a bit creative. Round trip from Toronto to London is about $1,700. Let's round it up to $2,000 because airlines hate you. Then getting a shitload of heist gear could run you like 10,000 USD. Converted to Canadian plus taxes, you get...
If I had $1 million, we wouldn't have to walk to the store. Take a limousine cause it costs more.
The closest grocery store to the house we bought is a 10-minute walk away, but man, a double-digit walk? Nah, you're too rich for that. If you imagine you go grocery shopping once a week, then let's assume that means you'll rent the limo for about 90 minutes every week, 52 times a year. This website says services range between $120 to $450 an hour, but I imagine the higher end is for the instances where you have 150 people somehow. So let's assume that you get charged the $120 price per hour, 1.5 hours a week, 78 hours total, add tax, you got...
If I had $1 million, we wouldn't have to eat Kraft dinner. But we would eat Kraft dinner. Of course we would.
Let's add 2 boxes of Kraft dinner to that shopping list. $1.70 from the grocery store closest to you, times 2, times 52 weeks, add tax, boom.
And buy really expensive ketchups with it. That's right, all the fanciest Dijon ketchup.
What the fuck is Dijon ketchup? Is there a gas leak in here? It looks like no one's made a commercially available Dijon ketchup yet because they're all fucking cowards. Kraft Dinner themselves did hold a contest where they made 15 bottles of Dijon ketchup and sent them to random people, but that seems to be the only kind ever produced and distributed in a business sense. If you want Dijon ketchup, you gotta make it yourself. I found a hilariously in-depth theoretical recipe for Dijon ketchup with more effort put into it than I've put into anything ever. A lot of these ingredients are the sort of things you buy once and potentially use for months, so I'm just going to find all these items in the grocery store, call it a one-time purchase, and that gets us...
If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a green dress, but not a real green dress, that's cruel.
What the fuck makes a green dress cruel? Has anyone looked into the gas leak yet? So upon further research, I actually found a Reddit AMA from the band and got an answer as to this lyric's existence. We wanted the spontaneity of a live version combined with the sonics of a good studio, so there were actually about 15 complete takes of the song. The original line was, with a tastefully rounded neck, but Steve changed it once to make me laugh. It stuck, it making no sense made us laugh even more. They were really on the vanguard of random equals funny. To help narrow down our green dress selections, I decided to use the original lyrics criteria and look for a green dress with a tastefully rounded neck, whatever the fuck that means. I'm assuming it just means that the head hole of the dress is a circle, so let me just find another luxury clothing site. Okay, good enough.
If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you some art. A Picasso or a Garfunkel.
Garfunkel is referring to Art Garfunkel, who is one half of the music duo Simon and Garfunkel. Garfunkel is such a good word. Garfunkel. 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 Like, just say it out loud a couple times. It's funny. He's not a visual artist though, so the only option from this lyric is Picasso, and I don't know how much his paintings go for. Let me see actually. What are we looking... Okay. How much money do we have left? That's not good. Okay, I think I managed to find something that's within the price range, and I'm picking it purely because it looks funny. Sold for just shy of 108,000 USD, converted to Canadian, that's...
If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a monkey. Haven't but you always wanted a monkey.
Back to the exotic pet angle, I see. First, I wanted to look up if you could even own a monkey in Canada, and it turns out that Ontario is apparently the only province not to have laws specifically against it, so that's good enough. Then I looked for a website where you can buy monkeys, but I'm gonna be real, most of these just look like total scams. I did find one breeder in Texas that seems to actually have a location on a map. I also see that they're 100% scam-free guarantee, so I feel fine giving them thousands of dollars. Let's go middle of the road here, 6,500 USD converted to Canadian. I don't think I need to add tax since you'd be buying it in the States. In terms of food, it's hard to gauge since no two monkeys are the same, but for baby monkeys, they apparently need a pound of food a day. This 9-pound bag is 54 USD, so rounding it up, that's 41 bags you need for the entire year. Say it with me, bitches. Convert to Canadian, add tax, and we get...
If I had $1 million, I'd be rich.
Would you? Would you be rich? Really? I don't know about that, bro. You wouldn't even have enough money to keep up with the second year of expenses if you did all this. Even without the escort, it's still like $41,000. So no, I think it's safe to assume that in 2026, if you had $1 million and you did all this shit, you would not be rich. You would actually probably just be fucked for life. So could you buy everything referenced in If I Had $1 Million in 2026? Yes, but at what cost? I mean, we know the cost is $1 million, but I you know. This also isn't accounting for what the government will probably take for taxes. We're just gonna ignore that part, I think.
It's been 1 week.